Hello and welcome to Japanese from Zero. This is designed to be the very first video that you ever watch on the channel or on yesjapan.com or japanesefromzero.com or wherever .com you're on where we have our lessons hosted. You might not even be on the online site. You might just be watching this on YouTube and you might have purchased the books. But this is what I would like to do to introduce you to day one of your learning Japanese. My name is George Trombley. I am the author of the Japanese from Zero books. I co-wrote them with my wife many years ago, and we've updated them over the years, and we continually build out the website, which you might be on right now. These are the books that you'll see in the back. Let's get started. First, I want to say, welcome. Japanese is going to be fun for you. Even if you're forced to be learning this class, even if you're taking Japanese because you're in a homeschool and your mom forced you to do it, or you're in a school in Europe or Canada or somewhere, or Australia where they're forcing you to learn it, you're still going to really have a lot of fun with Japanese. It's one of the greatest languages to learn because of anime and because of manga. That's not manga, by the way. It's not manga or anime. It's anime and manga. Let's look at what's going to happen when you start learning Japanese. It's a new world. It really is a new world. And even if you have been to Japan before, it's completely different when you speak Japanese. And by the way, this says, "Atarashii seikai ga hirogaru." You don't have to remember that, but if you're really cool, you might. And what that means is a new world spreads out in front of you. Okay? The world spreads out. Okay? Now, when you learn a new language, any language, this is true, but we're only talking about Japanese today. There are over 10,000 things to learn. Okay, and that's not meant to scare you. That's just meant to, let you know, hey, there's a lot you're gonna have to learn. So you know what? The order doesn't really matter. If you learn some weird advanced stuff tomorrow, and then you learn how to say it's a dog today, it's okay. It's not a problem because you need to know them anyway. Okay? I'm not a fan of, learning every word on earth possible because that's kind of a waste of time. Only learn the things that you need initially, and as you get better, you can get into some programs that will teach you a whole bunch of words at once. It doesn't matter though, because as long as you remember it and it's something that you use, why not learn it, okay? And by the way, that says, narau koto wa 1,000,000 ijo desu, okay? So the things you must learn are more than 10,000. There's a ton of them. And this is an important thing. A lot of people want to rush. They want to rush learning because they can't wait to speak Japanese. If you rush, you might learn it bad, but honestly, this is not... I kind of just came up with these on the fly, honestly, about a half hour ago. So who am I? You don't even know who I am. I mean, yeah, I wrote some Japanese books, and yeah, I speak Japanese, and I did live in Japan for a long time, but that was before you were born, maybe. Come on, that was like... You guys, if you're 13, it was definitely before you were born when I lived in Japan. So you can't trust me. Matter of fact, you know what? Don't trust any teacher. Even the guy that's teaching the class that you're in right now. He might not know it properly. You can trust him. I'm just kidding. But you can take things with a grain of salt. Any book that you get, as a matter of fact, when you're learning Japanese, is basically an author's opinion. Even my books are opinions. Did you know that in our books, we teach you how to say cold water? Now, this is a weird thing. I'm just randomly remembering this thing. But we teach it as tsumetai mizu. Tsumetai mizu, which is literally an adjective in front of, cold and then water, okay? But one of my longtime students said, George, I went to Japan. You didn't teach me ohiya. You know what? I never even used that word when I was in Japan, so it wasn't in the book. So the guy that wrote that book didn't use that phrase, so it's not in the book. So sometimes you'll read books where that guy just didn't have that experience, so he didn't put it in there. So learn from multiple sources. I know this is weird because you're on the website or you're reading my book or you're watching my video and I'm telling you, hey, I'm not the only one, okay? Learn from a lot of places. Don't rush, okay? 時間をかけて急ぐなよ, okay? Take time and don't rush. All right. Make mistakes. In retrospect, I should have had a typo in this. You might have already found the typo in this PowerPoint, but I should have put a PowerPoint typo right here. All right, but make mistakes. 失敗をしろ. 失敗. Mistake. Make mistakes. Why? The number one reason you won't learn Japanese is because you're too afraid to speak it. You're frightened that you're going to make a mistake, so you never talk. Okay, I just actually got asked this in the chat room, and someone said, well, what do you do when you're afraid to make mistakes? And I said, I don't. But it doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. It means I don't get afraid to make mistakes. Okay, another thing that I don't even have in the PowerPoint, when you start speaking Japanese, you kind of have to become an actor or an actress. You have to act Japanese in a way. And it's awkward at first because you feel it's like it's a whole different voice that you're saying. Instead of saying like, hi, my name is George, you're like, konnichiwa, George tomoshimasu. And it sounds foreign and it's coming out of you and it's awkward. So a lot of people get very shy. But you know what? Don't. There's no way to not be shy, I get it, but don't. Don't, because there are years of totally awesome excitement. I'm 43. I'm 43. When I was 12 years old, I moved to Japan with my father, and I stayed there for 9 years. And I've been married now. After coming back from Japan, I got married to a Japanese woman, been married for 20 years, and I just watched Dragon Ball Z, or Zetto as they call it, for the first time. I never watched Dragon Ball Zetto. And I gotta tell you, even after speaking Japanese now, or knowing Japanese for more than 25 years, I still had a ton of fun watching Dragon Ball Zetto, Dragon Ball Z. Japanese don't say Z, they say Zetto in the alphabet, by the way. So if you say to a Japanese person, have you watched Dragon Ball Z? They won't know what that is. You have to say Dragon Ball Zetto. Alright, anyway, totally unrelated. But I just watched that. I never really watched anime. So even though I'm 43 and I'm fluent in Japanese, I can now have years and years and years of fun watching anime if I decided to get into it. I did watch Death Note. Death Note, holy moly, was that amazing. That was a great. I say it's the best anime I ever watched, but it was the only anime I ever watched. All right. So a lot of times when you're learning Japanese, you get stuck. This happens to everybody. You feel like you're not moving forward is one. They feel like you reached a plateau and you're not getting better. You know what? That's not even what I'm talking about. That will happen, and it's the exact same advice. 困った時は先に進め. 困った時は先に進め means when you are troubled, move forward. Now, generally this happens in the very beginning. Okay, in the very beginning you're learning things, and because Japanese is so foreign, because when you speak English, you speak a certain order, you don't have these particles that Japanese have, you don't read hiragana yet, you don't know what the Chinese characters are, you didn't even realize until I just said it that there were different ways of writing Japanese, and you're like, oh my god, what do I do? Move forward. Move forward, always, never stop. It's kind of like, you know, when you're deep in it, when you're this close into Japanese, when you just start, it's like looking at a painting like this. You know, you're looking at it so close that you can see all the dots, but you don't know what it is. Sometimes you have to separate from that thing that you were studying and move on. And as you move on, this thing gets a little bit further away, and all of a sudden you can see it from far away. And you go, okay, I forget what they call that. There's a painting style where they do that, where everything's a dot. Okay. I forget the name of it. Somebody in the comments will post it. But it's just a bunch of dots when you're up close, and when you back away is the only time you can actually understand it. That's the same thing. So, especially with our series, the way we do it is we'll teach a concept, okay? And then we base the next lesson on an expansion of that concept. So even if you don't get it, there's a lot of repetition, there's a bunch of sentences that will come up later on that will help you. There's two things when you learn grammar. Two things, okay? One, there's the initial explanation of grammar. If that confuses you, the thing that will save you is looking at the examples. Example after example after example. And I promise you, we have a lot of examples, and I promise you that even if you don't get it in that lesson, or if you forget it, you'll get it in the next lesson over time, all right? That is it for the welcome lesson. I really sincerely welcome you to Japanese. I promise you that it is life-changing, and I hope that in 4 or 5 years, if I'm still alive, you will message me and say, hey, that video really helped, and hey, I'm fluent in Japanese now. All right, I'll see you all in the next lesson, which is pronunciation. Bye.